late last year we saw this, the release of the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus, but it's now the global version's turn, which I've been using now for a week. If you didn't see anything about the original first release of the Chinese model, well, it's really essentially the same phone now with the global model. And the one to get, because you get the proper 5G bands, 4G bands, you get the modem that's going to cover all of Europe and your own country too, of course. So spec-wise, it's got a lot, considering it's a mid-range phone, but we get a Dimensity 7200 Ultra chipset, 4 nanometers, and it's got a lot of power. It's about over 700,000 its Antutu score. Very good. A 5,000 milliamp hour battery with 120 watt fast charging. Now that hypercharger, Xiaomi includes it in the box. They also include your typical SIM tray tool, USB cable, and a TPU case. That's there, and a little bit of paperwork. Great to see they are still doing that. The screen on it, well, it's 6.67 inches AMOLED, 120 Hz. Max brightness, Xiaomi's claim, is 1800 nits. It's got an in-screen fingerprint reader, 16 megapixel front-facing camera, dual loudspeakers, IP68 rating for dust and splashes on it won't be an issue. So, as I said, there's a lot on offer here. And in this review, I'll point out all the good and the bad of the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus. The design and the look of the phone here, I don't mind it. So we have these the purple color here, slightly different shade there, and the pastels on the back. And you can see in writing just there some text. That's the 200 megapixel optical image stabilized camera, which is that one right there. And sadly, yeah, we do have a tiny little sensor. You can see this one, that is 2 megapixels macro camera. What on earth is it doing there? I mean, they should really just get rid of that. We don't need it. They could have maybe made that ultra wide, which is 8 megapixels, an autofocus ultra wide, and that would give us the macro support there anyway if they'd done that. So having this kind of camera here is really good. Having a battery capacity, of course, of 5,000 milliamp hours, also very good. And weight-wise, well, a little heavy. It's about 208 grams is what I am measuring with this for this version right here. And of course, we've got that 120 watt charging, very good to see. Type-C port down here in the bottom. Doesn't support video out, as expected for this category of phone. A SIM tray that takes 2 nano SIMs, so there is no micro SD card support. There is no 3.5mm headphone jack either with this model. And this is our downwards firing loudspeaker. We have a loudspeaker in the earpiece, and the screen here, which is AMOLED, 6.67 inches. It's up to 120 Hz, 12-bit panel. Contrast ratio, according to Xiaomi, is 5,000,000:1, and the resolution is 2712 by 1220. So it looks sharp. You don't see any pixels at all, and performance seems to be very good with that Dimensity 7200 Ultra. So curvature to the screen here. That front-facing camera is 16 megapixels. Bezels on the side aren't bad. I wish it was a flat screen. I prefer flat screens. What about you? You prefer to have them curved in your hand there when you're holding it. Feels a little bit better because of the curvature, but I just, in theory and use, I do like to have a flat screen. So power, volume up and down. Frame around the outside apparently is made out of alloy. It does feel very good. And we have an IP68 rating with this too. Very, very good to see. Finally, up the top, IR transmitter, port for the loudspeaker, and some microphones there. So that fingerprint reader location is quite low. I really think it should be about here, but that's just the way it is with this. I hope that they start to move them up a little bit to make it a bit more comfortable. So the screen is very nice. It's nice and sharp. The resolution is 2712 by 1220. It's a 12-bit panel here, and 120 Hz is the maximum refresh rate. I don't have any stats, however, on its pulse width modulation frequency, but it seems to be high because I do not see any flicker with it when I lower the brightness down. Corner of my eye, when you quickly look at it, no shimmering, no issues with it if you are very sensitive to that. Now, Xiaomi's claim is that this screen can go up to a pretty crazy for a mid-range phone, 1800 nits maximum brightness. And like what I've been seeing now, the current trend is that brightness I've never been actually able to measure or achieve myself, but I get just over 830 nits. It's a very bright panel. It is good. And in direct sunlight, you can make it out, as you can see from my example here. Even though it was a little bit cloudy, trust me, when the sun's out, it's still very good. It's a great looking screen we get with this model. I like it. So I've got Apps Drawer that you can enable that as well, or you can just use it all in one with the widgets. And again, yeah, just commenting on that performance. Gestures working good. Everything seems to be fine. I have encountered 1 or 2 times where the screen, I've unlocked it, and some apps, I think it's more of the problem to do with Antutu, has happened to me a couple of times. The screen will still be black for some reason, and it didn't want to wake up properly. But I think that's being provoked by Antutu. But still, I don't get this with other phones. It's a minor little bug I wanted to mention there. We have MIUI 14 based on Android 13. Yes, you did hear correct there. So we are still on Android 13, even though it's MIUI 14. Other versions of MIUI 14 do have Android 14, but we're just going to have to wait for that update to come through. I am on the latest patch there, and you can see it's Android 13. Plenty of free storage with this top spec one here. Security update level is from November, so I hope that they're going to be pushing out a patch for this soon, and I imagine they will once it's released globally. Now, when you first fire up this phone, you will be greeted with this, with more apps, and there's quite a bit of bloatware on here. You can see there's that lot, there's some games they pre-install. So they're still doing this, Xiaomi, and I went to uninstall them, which is very easy, just to go into the settings, apps, uninstall, go and select them all, and 3.25 gigabytes worth of what I classify as bloatware there, and it was quite a few apps, I believe like 20 apps or something. So I just hope they can tone down on that. So we do have NFC on board, and you can use banking apps. It passes SafetyNet, which of course is what we want there. Widevine level 1 cert, gain good, so streaming, DRM, so Netflix, Amazon Prime Video in 1080p. Internal storage, UFS 3.1 spec. We're getting good speeds for that, almost 2,000 with the read sequential, and 1,600 writes, and very good random access speeds there, getting well over 300 and almost 50 there for this reads, and almost 400 for the write. Antutu score, very decent, I think, for a mid-range phone. So the Dimensity 7200 Ultra does have good performance. There's no real weak spot here either. You can see that when you take a look at the scores for the GPU and the CPU, there's not too much of a difference. If the GPU was really weak, then that would be quite a low score, where the others would be high. But it's not the case. It's quite a balanced chipset. So battery life, my normal fixed test. With the MediaTek Dimensity here, I've noticed one thing, that the standby drain doesn't seem to be quite as good as the Qualcomm counterparts. I'm not really too sure why. ROM optimization could be one thing. It just could be because at a lower clock speeds of the chipset, it just seems to be a little bit less efficient compared to the Qualcomm chips. However, it still, as mentioned, has really good performance. Battery life, you're looking at about 7 hours at 120 hertz. With this test, it was almost 9 hours, which is a good result, but certainly not the best result. I have seen other phones with a similar capacity of battery getting, say, 10 hours or just over 10 hours with that test. So charge time, enabling the faster charge through the settings, Xiaomi claims you can fully charge in 19 minutes, and it's not far off that. It's 23, from 15% to 100, so incredibly quick charging for this type of phone, being more affordable. That's absolutely brilliant, and of course, it's included in the box there. So great charging speeds, and overall, a lot of these things we're getting for the price point are very good what is on offer. It's just that micro SD card and 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, for me, would have been really nice to have with this phone. The Note 13 Pro Plus does have dual loudspeakers. They sound good. I like the volume. There's a bit of bass to them. Vocals also good. Overall rich sounding speakers. If you plug in a 3.5 to Type-C adapter, you can use your old headsets, and they do sound excellent as well. Xiaomi's quite good when it comes to the Type-C audio out, should I say there. They don't have video out with this model. Haptics too do feel very good. It's a nice, relatively strong little pulse there. Certainly better than some other phones that I've been testing out recently, and even some flagship phones. So I'll give you a sample of the speaker. This is at 100. Just check, yes, 100% volume. And you hear that it's loud, there's a bit of bass, and overall, good loudspeakers. I do like these dual loudspeakers. Genshin Impact performance is very good, considering the kind of demanding game that I'm testing out right here. Genshin Impact highest possible setting, 60 frames per second. What kind of frame rate will it get here with our Dimensity 7200 Ultra? Well, a few frame dips. So if I have a look at game space here, I'll just bring this up. Oh, it's not working for some reason. No, I don't want to cancel. Oh, there we go. Sometimes it can be a little bit annoying to trigger, as I've just demonstrated here. So you swipe there from the corner. There we go, game turbo, sorry. So I can boost this. You can have a look at the performance, which it's telling me right now. Okay, 60 frames per second here at the moment. That's good. Just before, it got down to 42 frames per second in this area in the map, having a look around. And of course, there are more demanding areas. I can see just a bit here. Having to render all that in the background on the highest possible settings, it's not probably a good idea. So lower it down to medium. But what I'm trying to point out here is that it can do it. This is like really flagship performance from 3 years ago, okay? And it is good. So great gaming performance from the Note 13 Pro Plus. And does it get warm? Yes. You feel a bit of heat around here. The frame gets a little warm too as well, but nothing alarming. Nothing for me to break out a thermal probe. It doesn't get uncomfortable. It throttles a tiny little bit as expected, but all in all, it's a good phone for gamers out there with great performance. So Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus cameras. This is the front-facing 16 megapixel camera, 1080p only, 30 frames per second, and 60 we do have that option, but there is no 4K. Now it does have electronic image stabilization. As you can see, the footage is looking really nice and smooth. The audio bitrate is 256 kilobits per second, so great to see it's not down really low at 96 kilobits per second, which has happened a lot in the past. Our main camera here, so this is the 200 megapixels with optical image stabilization. You can shoot 4K 30, but no 4K 60, 1080p, 30 and 60. And look at how steady this footage is looking. The image stabilization, optical and electronic, is looking really good. This is just me walking along at a normal kind of pace. Now jogging, just to show you how reasonably steady it is. You can see sometimes it jolts and moves around a little bit, but overall I'm impressed with the stabilization. But it would be nice to have a 4K 60 option, which this chipset can handle. Ultra wide footage now. So this is that same 8 megapixel camera that we've seen for just so long. I mean, they've just used this part over and over and over again. They must have bought so much stock. They've got a huge surplus Xiaomi. They need to use it up. Not a great sensor, and we only get with the phone just 1080p 30, no 1080p 60 even. Now it is using electronic image stabilization, which is pretty good and steady, but if you look at the corners of the video, if you crop in a little bit, no, not very good at all, the quality. Now for our samples, the selfies tend to look alright, not bad at all. Stitching is okay. The rear camera, I've noticed, tends to be warm, the white balance. This is it again. So the 200 megapixel camera, 2x digital zoom, for some reason is warmer, I don't know why. The shot of my cat here, Vera, looks really good, lots of detail. And this photo is the 2 megapixel macro camera, not great at all, looks a bit washed out. And selfies are great, but a little bit warm, the colors, and the stitching around my daughter's hair could be a little bit better. Low light performance for a mid-range phone turned out to be quite good, as you can see from these photos. This was shot at around 10 PM and it still came out really good. It was looking a lot darker than that. This has a lot of noise to it. If it's very dark, the photos tend to be quite noisy. The Note 13 Pro Plus has a lot on offer for the price point. That 200 megapixel camera takes a great photos I've shown you. 5,000 milliamp hour battery with the very fast 23 minutes to fully charge, for me that is. They claim it's 19. 120 watt charging for that battery is great. Of course, you get that in the box. You get a TPU case too with the phone, and it has a very good screen. Now, Xiaomi's claim is 1800 nits top brightness, which I've not been able to measure, but it is still a very bright screen you can make out in direct sunlight. The weak points of the phone, for me, are the ultra wide, not really that great. The macro camera, why on earth are we still getting a 2 megapixel macro camera in 2024? Come on, I mean, that should not be there. Just give us a better ultra wide with autofocus that can double as a macro camera. That's what we used to get, and I think they need to go back to doing that. Now, we do have the dual loudspeakers, but we are missing our 3.5mm headphone jack and a micro SD card. We don't have those with a mid-range phone anymore from Redmi, which is a bit of a shame there, but all up, so much on offer. The Dimensity 7200 Ultra is also such a great chip, I think, for the price of this. The performance you're getting, there is no real weak point of it. It's an all-rounded chip. And best part, it doesn't really seem to throttle at all, which is another great thing. So that is the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus. Thanks a lot for watching this review.